I don't know if this is anything new, because they always tell me, "Oh, this is new, this is different, Neil." But we are more polarized than ever, more conservative on the conservative side, more liberal on the liberal side. But we're all very angry at each other. In fact, we're having our own sort of emotional civil war going on in this country, and issues like what's going on in Iraq and the implosion there and the VA scandal and the health care problems. It's all feeding on this cynicism we have. Those against government are getting angry. Those for government are saying, "Why don't you calm down?" And the worse it gets. Back with our all-stars, Sabrina Schaefer and Colonel Bob McGinnis, Kayleigh McEnany. Colonel, you and I can remember the similar type of extremes during the Vietnam era, and I'm almost getting a sense of that now. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you make a good point, Neil. You know, I was here in Washington, say in '73, when Nixon was inaugurated. They were burning flags at the at the Washington Memorial. The troops were all over the Hill during the inauguration. It was a war zone here in Washington, and so we were diametrically opposed. But today I'm seeing much the same, unfortunately. You know, we've got middle America that feels abandoned by this Washington establishment that, you know, is pushing a very radical agenda that just doesn't meet them. You know, they want jobs. They want to be left alone by big government. They want to do the things that are meaningful to their families. And some of the stuff that this administration especially, and Congress unfortunately is going along with, they just don't agree with.
You know, Sabrina, I'll use my daughter as an example. She's a wonderful girl. She's liberal. I can't control these things, you know.
No.
But in all seriousness, she has a big heart. But even she is saying, you know, I don't know, the health care thing and everything else. Even she's given pause to a lot of what she says, and that's someone who favored big government. And she one time told me, "Dad, what difference would it make if you paid more in tax?" So I told her at the time, "Well, honey, it would be your college tuition. How's that?"
Right,
but I do think that there's almost like the bloom is off the idealistic rose here when it comes to the president, when it comes to government, and to the Colonel's point, when it comes to America. And I worry about that. What do you say?
Well, I do and I don't. Look, I mean, no doubt the partisanship today, and I'm here in Washington, it is unpleasant, and I think it's largely unproductive. But I think that this is actually more the norm than an anomaly in American history. And I would actually encourage viewers to read Joanne Freeman's Affairs of Honor. It's about national politics in the early republic, and it will sort of, remind people that there's never been a golden era of political politeness. We were fighting a war, that we had an antebellum era. It has been a lot of strife. So it's not necessarily the end of the world.
Well, you're right about that, and we always overcome these things. But the real division here, Kayleigh, almost begs for someone, I don't know, to come along and unite people. In the 30s, it was FDR. In the 80s, it was Ronald Reagan. See, fair and balanced, and get two parties involved. I don't know who those characters are.
Yeah, we need a pragmatist, there's no doubt. And the partisanship we see, it's no accident it exploded under this president. It exploded under this president because this is the most partisan president we have seen in the White House. And there's a very telling anecdote from Bob Woodward's book, The Price of Politics, where very first day, Obama calls in the House leaders, minority leaders, says, "I want to work with you. Come up with some proposals." Eric Cantor comes up with proposals. The president sets them down, looks at him and says, "Elections have consequences. I win, I trump you." That's a quote from the book that Obama said. It set the tone in Washington. The Tea Party emerged from that. This partisanship is a result of a partisan president.
You don't seem to like the president too much. Colonel, where do you think this goes? If this partisanship, as Sabrina pointed out, is more the historical norm than exception, I do see that this continues for a while. Is it solved generally in history by bridge candidates, pragmatic players, a forceful player on the right or the left? What?
Oh, is that for me?
Yes, it was, Colonel. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Politically, this city, as she points out, has been so divided over the years. I don't see, when I see a Cantor from my home state being dumped, when I read polls like the Pew poll that came out recently saying we're so divided, and I know in my own conservative community, we're so upset by much of what we're seeing from our federal government that we're becoming despondent, and then of course I look across the nation and I monitor what's happening in the Second Amendment issue. I see guns being sold left and right, ammunition can't be purchased. People are fearful of what's happening not only to their own economy but to the nation. Where have we come as a nation and where are we going? And there's a lot of fear.
There is a lot of fear. Go ahead, Sabrina, finish
Well,
up.
I was going to say, I think that Michael Barone sort of hits the nail on the head with it doesn't necessarily have to be a leader who's going to unite us. It may be an event. And I think he points to sort of this mid-century moment, right, where after the Depression, after World War II, the prosperity, there was sort of this moment of political togetherness that we haven't really ever experienced other than that moment. So maybe we really need to see whether it's the economy or, unfortunately, our foreign affairs that will bring people together.
Well, I hope it isn't a trauma like a 9/11 event,
right,
but we shall see. Guys, thank you very much. Well, we told you earlier about how all of this is drawing attention to our own domestic oil market to rely less on what's going on over there. So in a perverse sense, all of this has just assured Keystone opening. You think? After this.